Alright, so welcome to the second video of this week, the week of April 20th. This next video is surface area of cones. The reason why we did pyramids first is because you need to remember that a cone is a specific pyramid. So we did pyramids, we're doing cones today, and then tomorrow I'm going to have an all surface area review because we are going to be moving on to volume next week. Alright, so first I did provide a general drawing just so we can look at what it would look like and then what each of the variables means. So on your drawing you have three. You have L, H, and R. So when you look at a cone, remember it is a pyramid and its base is a circle. So I have R down there at the very bottom, and you need to remember that R is going to stand for radius. We've already dealt with it in circles, so it is coming back. On this one we do have H, and it's really important that you know that H is the height, but this one is perpendicular to the base. Because in cones as well, we also have L, which we dealt with in pyramids, which is your slant height. This one is not perpendicular to the base. It starts at the vertex and comes down and is actually on the edge of the base, the edge of that circle. So again, we do have two formulas for these cones. We have our lateral, which is pi times the radius times the slant height. So remember, R stands for radius and that L stands for slant height. And then your total is pi RL, which remember that first part is your lateral formula plus pi r squared, and that R still stands for radius. You should notice that all these total surface areas have the lateral in it. That's because remember, the formula is you take the lateral surface area and you add to it the base area. And since our base here is a circle, we have the area of a circle formula pi r squared. Alright, so example 1, I ask you to find both areas, so the lateral and total, of a right cone with a radius of 9 centimeters and a slant height of 5 centimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and first start off with my lateral. Remember, that formula is pi times the radius times the slant height. So I have pi times, my radius is given and it's 9 centimeters, and my slant height is also given, it is 5 centimeters. So when I do this to simplify, I have 9 times 5, which is 45 pi. You can leave it at this answer, or remember, if you want it as a decimal form, you can also put it as 141.37, and these are both centimeters squared. Now the total surface area, so total is that lateral, so pi r L plus the area of a circle pi r squared. So I have everything I need. Remember, this first part is the lateral, which you already found. I'm going to write it in terms of pi because the second part is going to give us the number in terms of pi. Plus pi times my r, which is 9, squared. The first part is still 45 pi. Plus I simplified 9 squared into 81, so I have 81 pi. My last step to find this in terms of pi, of course, is to simplify. So I do 45 plus 81. That gives me 126 pi. You can leave your answer like this if you want, or if you want that decimal, go ahead and plug that in, and it should give you 395.84. And remember, this is centimeters squared. Alright, so here in example 2, I ask you to find the lateral area. I give you the diagram over to the left. Remember, your lateral formula is pi r times the slant. So when I look, I have my slant height. It goes from the vertex to the edge of the circle. This is going to be 20.1. But when I look at my circle, I have the diameter. It goes from one edge of the circle to the other. So you need to remember your diameter is equal to 2 times the radius, which means you're going to half the diameter. But I know that 18 is equal to my diameter, which is equal to 2r. Divide both sides by 2 to find r, and you find that r, your radius, is 9. If you remember just to half it, all you have to do is 18 divided by 2, and it gives you 9. If not, I just gave you the formula for that as well. So then the lateral, you have pi times my radius, which I just found to be 9, times 20.1. 9 times 20.1 gives me 180.9 pi. And if you want, again, you can leave it like that. If not, plug it into your calculator, and it should give you 568.31. And this is meters squared. Example 3 is just like example 2, where I asked you to find the lateral area. So again, that formula, your lateral area is equal to pi times the radius times the slant height. Here I was nice to you. I already gave you the radius. So you have pi times the radius, which is 4, times the slant height, which is 10.8. In my calculator, I do 4 times 10.8, and that gives me 43.2 pi. So I know my lateral area is 43.2 pi kilometers square. But again, if you want the decimal, it's totally fine. You should end up with 132.89 kilometers squared. All right, so example 4, I ask you to find the total surface area. So this is different because we're not just doing lateral. So your formula for total is pi RL, which is your lateral formula, plus the area of the base, which is pi r squared. So in this diagram, I give you everything. I'm just going to plug it all in right now. Pi times my radius, which is 2, times my slant height, which is 9.2, plus pi times my radius, 2 squared. So this is just all plugged in for their variables. So when I come to simplify this, the first part, 2 times 9.2 gives me 18.4. So I have 18.4 pi plus that 2 squared changes to 4 pi. When I simplify this in terms of pi, I end up with 22.4 pi as my total surface area, feet squared. So again, you can plug that into your calculator to get a decimal. And when you do that, you should end up with 70.37 feet squared. Remember, I will take either of these answers. I do not care if you keep it in terms of pi or a decimal. When you're doing your assignment, you don't have a pi button or function. You can insert an image, but you can always just put the actual word pi, pi. And then here, your last example, example 5, is to find the total surface area. So remember, your total formula is pi RL plus pi r squared. I'm given the slant height, which is 17.9. I'm given the diameter of the circle. Remember, to find that radius, so 16 is your diameter. To find the radius, you divide it by 2. So I know that my radius is 8. So when I come plug everything in, pi times my radius, which is 8, times my slant height, which is 17.9, plus pi times my radius again, which is 8 squared. I'm going to start simplifying everything. So when I do 8 times 17.9, I end up with 143.2 pi plus, you now have 8 squared, or 8 times 8, so 64 pi. My last step is to combine those together. So in terms of pi, my total surface area is 207.2 pi yards squared. And then as a decimal, that gives me 650.94. So you do have a Cones Google Slides assignment. There are only 2 assignments for this week. Also, make sure you have answered the question of the week too. All 3 of those go into consideration for your weekly progress monitoring. If you have questions on that or what it is, please make sure you ask me so you don't fall too far behind or get into trouble with it. So thanks for tuning in, and let me know if you need any help.